that's a character up there who is sitting atop the clock, and apparently in his right hand ringing one of the bells. I wonder what the significance of that curiosity so obscurely placed is. Such amazing edifices to memorialize the existence of the presence and the past of people we don't even know about. Presumably more lie beneath these large stones. Presumably this piece of furniture held music. Books of the litany. Notice how the seats go up so you can stand up and sit down, I suppose. They're kind of a pretty stained glass work, principally I think because of its, I will use the word piquant, restraint. Most of the huge chapels on this side are closed off for some reason. They appear to have very majestic entries and very large areas behind. One wonders. I think these portions of the cathedral are for actual worshippers. Go figure. It's interesting to look at the use of color here to embellish the colonnade carvings, if you will. I'd hoped to learn more of this tapestry, but there was no discussion of it in the audio guide. But much of the wool to create these Flemish tapestries came from the Basque area. This entire chapel that we're in was commissioned by a man who gained the use of it by asking the Board of Governors or whatever if he could build a chapel in here to Saint so-and-so. But of course he wanted it to be his burial crypt. And so it apparently is. But this is apparently high-level, end of the Gothic period sculpture work done over the course from 1475 onward. Astounding detail. But this is the way a powerful, wealthy man bought his way into heaven, he thought, and helped to squander some of his family's wealth, which he probably created. But I do get a kick out of the political undertones of anything to do with the church. It was, after all, a political institution of power. It certainly is a massive construction as you wander through the various parts of it, seemingly not repeating yourself. The cathedral continues around behind the altar to those chapels. Another pretty view of that, lovely, restrained stained glass. Notice on this organ how the horns protrude directly out from the wall, perhaps to give a different kind of sound. I wonder if the panels above each of these seats stood for, at least at some time, the individual who occupied first these seats. In other words, were they able to commission the work to glorify themselves? Otherwise, I wonder what would have been the guiding conceptual principles for the themes of the work that is embodied here, which probably none but very, very few scholars, if any, would have taken the time to fully understand. A monumental amount of work. Here the altar. How ironical that such masterworks, both in the stained glass, the woodwork that we've seen, almost from the time that they're created, would go unnoticed by all but a few. Comparing this chapel with the last one, you're struck by the considerable lightness and the simplicity of this one. Does it reflect the lack of the funds? A change in style? An artistic restraint by the patron or the artist? Here apparently a considerable amount of conservation work going on as they try to restore the design, particularly that lower portion where it's almost totally obscured. But my guess is that much of this was and is of simple cement or plaster. Imagine the difficulty of carving the right-hand portion out of rock as opposed to whatever this is, and the difficulty of simply recreating it, which they will have to do on this left side, and for the balance of the downward portion of those two columns. How much of this edifice is apparently designed to hold the crypts or remains of people who were important over the last several centuries to this cathedral. Certainly it must be your greatest ambition, although you would rebuke yourself for feeling that way, to be given such a place of reverence. Here's some curiously garbed individuals or characters, if in fact they're human at all. And here what look like old fat men in little children's bodies riding dragons. Are these angels or evil? This is interesting. It's not a cross, it's a T that Christ is apparently carrying. This was the major sacrista, or sacristy. Incredibly Baroque, it looks like. That isn't a redundant choice of words. Look at this panel. And here in this majestically elegant, hopefully wood furniture, would have been stored the garments and other paraphernalia of church ritual.